There it is in the distance, admittedly on a cold grey Manchester morning. The statue of the Holy Trinity, George Best, Bobby Charlton and the great Aberdonian Denis Law. It's in a distance because I want to turn around and now do this and show you the way that Manchester United have used this banner to mark the day of Denis's funeral. As you can see, I'm outside the stadium that he's most identified with, but tonight I'll be going across to watch a club that he also played for, Manchester City, twice, and watching them against Real Madrid. Before just thinking about that match, why not think a little bit about Denis Law? I remember as a youngster saying to my dad, "Who is this Denis Law? Tell me about him." And as a kid, that magical moment when you're falling in love with football and you've got this voracious need to know about characters, to know about clubs, to know about stats. And I was a complete nerd. Was, you're saying? Was. My dad said to me, son Denis was small and wiry but brave and ferocious, and he had a great leap on him, and he helped rebuild United after the Munich air disaster. He was one of those who helped rebuild United. My dad adored him, and in due course he proposed Denis for his first honorary degree, something which Denis loved accepting, at the University of Aberdeen. And then in due course, as I became an ambassador for the Denis Law Legacy Trust Street Sport project in Aberdeen, I would be asked to stand on stage and propose Denis at His Majesty's Theatre in Aberdeen for what became his second honorary degree from Robert Gordon University. Boy, was I proud, but not of myself, proud of Denis, a man who lent his talents and name and energy to providing sports facilities, providing things to do for kids in Aberdeen and communities where life wasn't working out, where life was hard, where nuisance behaviour was beginning to cause trouble for the cops, for the fire brigade. And Denis threw his energy in the great part of his latter years into helping this charity, the Foundation Street Sport, to provide facilities, sports facilities, to teach kids values, to introduce them to competitive sport, to give them facilities at night time, and in due course to help bring 3 separate Johan Cruyff courts to Aberdeen: the Denis Law Court, the Willie Miller Court, and the court named after my old school classmate Neil Tatty Cooper. I love Denis so much. He has a wonderful family, and by the time you see this, I'll have been at the cathedral in Manchester this morning listening to only 3 speakers talk about Denis. Di, his wonderful, beautiful daughter, Sir Alex Ferguson, and Mark Williams, who's CEO of Street Sport in Aberdeen. What an honour that Mark is one of 3 speakers at the greatest Scottish footballer's funeral here. Later in the day, it's across to Manchester City, a stadium that Denis never played in, but against a rival he knew, a rival that he and his club helped eliminate en route to the 1968 European Cup final win at Wembley over Benfica. Ancelotti takes his team to Manchester, talking about Pep Guardiola and facing Pep as a nightmare. The reason being that Pep's very talented, very clever. He's very, very good at picking flaws and faults in his rivals, and at the moment, Madrid have plenty of those. Last season, one club in 55 matches managed to beat them. They did it twice, and it was Atleti. This season, just about halfway through everything, Madrid have lost 7 times and to 6 different clubs. What does that tell us? It tells us that they're in transition. It tells us that they're vulnerable defensively, something which isn't helped by the fact that Carvajal, Militao, Rudiger, Alaba, Lucas Vazquez are all out. The battle to watch tonight, I think, is the uneven one between Raul Asencio, who's fast, aggressive. He kind of thinks he's a reincarnation of Sergio Ramos, who's only been reincarnated because he's left Real Madrid, just signed for a club in Mexico. It's see a ball, win a ball, see your opponent, bully him. Bully your opponent. Not when Erling Haaland, who'll be his direct opponent sometime tonight, is 6 inches and 16 kilos bigger than him and has 47 in 47 in the Champions League. Football is a mad, idiosyncratic, odd sport. But how can Raul Asencio, even in those conditions, match up to Erling Haaland? Could he? Maybe. But also with Tchouaméni, a readapted centre-back, who I've talked about here before, Valverde out of midfield at right-back, probably Mondi at left-back. Madrid could be ragdolled. Madrid could be bullied and beaten. Could City put it out of reach before the second leg at the Bernabeu next Wednesday, where I'll be working and reporting? Madrid are so extraordinary that I think no. Vinicius, Mbappe, Rodrigo, Bellingham, they can score here. Will it be tight? That would surprise me. City should win. You're yelling at this broadcast now at revistadellaliga.com. Graham, City are in decline and Pep says they're tired and they're vulnerable and they're losing too. I know, but it's Pavlovian. When the bell rings and it's the Champions League, Madrid, and in the modern times, City come out to play. Hungrily. Appointment TV for most of you. Appointment match for me. I'll see you at the Etihad.